Hey Snowflakes. So I've got a 1969 Moto-Mower Snowmobile-Commander, which was made by the same company, made by Snowprints. I'm 100% sure. I'm going to pull this thing apart. It's good. It's kind of unique because it's got a Lloyd engine, and it's got electric start, and basically the different hood. All right, here she is. It's actually in pretty good shape. Fairly complete. Missing the seat. Got a Tilson HR carb on it, which are pretty common. Very easy to rebuild. They work well. It has a manifold which points straight up, which was commonly called a rain catcher, and for obvious reasons. I mean, pull the air box off the top, and then it could just pour snow or rain or whatever in there. So kind of a terrible idea. I think they did it just so it wasn't pointing at the operator, maybe, I don't know. It's stupid, but kind of cool in the same sense. These handlebars are incorrect. They look like they could be off anything, a cat or a Rolleiflex. But somebody had obviously bent them. Wiring's kind of a mess, but that's no trouble. It's pretty easy to look after. It's got that kind of unique header off the engine, which I don't know. It looks heavy, but it also looks cool. It's got a red hood and these crazy looking louvers and a single Cyclops headlight. It looks like one of the ski posts is bent. Maybe I can take care of that. Alright, you can see I got the engine out and got the chain case apart, but still got a little ways to go. Got to get that track out so I can get at that gas tank. And then I got an idea. I saw somebody try it a while back, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, well, my first thought was to put the whole chassis onto a cement mixer and spin it around, but I just couldn't come up with a good way of making that work, so this was my next plan. And you can see there isn't much to it. You got the tractor with one wheel off the ground, sitting at idle with the forward engaged, and made sort of a rotisserie here. I cleaned out most of the tank with the vacuum cleaner and rinsed it out good, and then I filled it with muriatic acid and water and some really short deck screws. I'll let her spin like that for a while and see how that goes. Should work okay. Well, so I attempting to straighten out this spindle, and somebody must have hit it like a giant stone or something. Anyhow, it was pretty bad, so what I've had to resort to is I cut open here, you can see the spindle support, and then I beat the dome in around there with a dolly and a hammer and straighten that out, but I'm gonna have to weld it back up. And it's also cracked here where the gas tank is, so I'll fix that. And then it's cracked on the other side as well. So, the bogies, there wasn't really anything wrong with. The drive shaft needed a new bearing, and I also needed a rear light, a marker light. So neither of those were big ticket items. Sometimes you can save something, save yourself a few bucks. In this case, you can see I've resoldered the contact here on the seal beam because it had fallen off, and the light was still good. It only took me a few seconds here to use the soldering iron and get it back on there, and works good as new. Normally I'd pull this whole engine apart and I would reseal it, but it's, like I said, it's pretty tight. So all I'm going to do is change the crank seals, fix up the electrical, and retime it and put it back on, because I think this is going to be a great little motor. And I assume these all came with a electric starter, because it looks like they have a great big dirty ring gear inside there, and this looks like it's probably came on all these engines. Here you can see I managed to sort out the wiring. It wasn't too bad to do. It looked worse than it was because somebody had unplugged everything and had spliced some different pieces of stuff in there that didn't belong. But I got that worked out, and I also replaced the flex pipe. I got rid of the flex pipe that was here, and I bought myself just a piece of tubing from Canadian Tire in the exhaust section, and I had this muffler connection here left over from another project that didn't get finished, so that worked out all right. Now, because that exhaust pipe's so leaky, it's terrible stuff. Alright, so I've been working on the hood here a little bit. You can see the top here, I've polished it, and man, it looks good. And the bottom, you can see how oxidized it was and where the old decals were. So this is just to show what some elbow grease and a little bit of time will get you. I'm not going to paint this thing because this is going to turn out pretty nice. And I got this idea watching another web series called Barn Find Hunter, where they found an old station wagon in a used lot in Texas, and they polished it back to life, and it looks great. I made these little fasteners for the hood. I just used some 5/16 bolts. I cut off the other end, and then put these wing nuts on and pinch them. That way the whole stud comes out. There was no gas cap. Someone had a twist-on style. It was just laying on there. This is one that I just made out of some scrap aluminum. I put an O-ring on there, and then there's a breather hole there that comes out the bottom, and it works just fine. There's a filter on there now, and here I bought a reproduction Tillotson screen type filter, and if you take those apart, you can get it works as a perfect replacement to go on the end of these carburetors. Decided to keep the handlebars because they're actually, although they've been welded together, somebody did a decent job doing it. So I have some controls here that I got off of an old Massey that I had laying out back, and the grips. Also have this switch here that came off of a junk Snowjet that a buddy gave me. I put on a connector off of an Evinrude, and I use a switch off an Evinrude. And this I actually think is better because the original switch had separate plugs for each contact. Now, if you take the hood off and you have to pull those off, it's kind of a pain in the neck to get on there and put each one back on. So this way you have a single connector Actually, that's not true. I had to leave one separate because the Evinrude connector has 7 connections and the 7th one is for the ground. But much easier to put this on and then that one. Okay, well, this is the windshield trim, and it's not the best, but it's not brittle or anything, but it's got a tear here. So I am going to heat it and just bend it back a little, and then I'm going to use the plastic stapler and stitch it from the back, and hopefully I can make it usable. I fixed up the trim here. It's a little bit nicked and stuff, but it's actually fairly pliable, and I found these. There was a lot of parts that were in a box. I found them and figured out what those are for. They go on the end there to dress that up. I haven't got a piece of Lexan to make a new windshield yet, but I'll get there. These rubber covers I got off of that junk Massey as well. I have the spare battery, or I got the battery in here. The battery is sitting on, you can see I got some thick rubber gasket material here. I think it's like 5/16 thick, and it worked perfect for just giving the battery a little bit of cushion. These recoils are notorious for being garbage. They're actually they're way too light. I don't think they're intended for an engine this size. I've repaired this one, but I'm certain it's just gonna break apart. I don't know if I would ever actually use it to start the machine. I'd probably just rely on the electric start here. And if that didn't work, I'd just pop it off and rope it. You actually need 2 different heights for spark plug caps, because a regular short one won't fit in on the magneto side because the engine is sloped. The shroud for the fan is sloped. These covers here for the holes, so I just made them out of some black gasket material. Alright, well, I wanted to make some pro and con points about this Lloyd engine, because there isn't a lot of info out there about them. So, number one, I'm going to start with the cons. Number one, the rain catcher carb. I'm going to say that's definitely a con if you don't have an air box on there and you keep your machine outside. Number two, the 2 different plug cap lengths, which isn't much of an issue unless you are missing a cap, which I was, so I had to come up with something else, and these are just what I had in the garage. Number 3, the recoil, way too light for this motor. Really, I wouldn't recommend using it. If you want to have it on there, I mean, really just keep it on there. It's kind of a decoration. And if you're stuck and you don't have the electric start hooked up, I mean, you can always rope it, but I wouldn't rely on that recoil. Number 4, when it came time to putting new crank seals on here, that ring gear behind the clutch is really difficult to remove, and it's even harder to get back on. So that can kind of make or break for some guys, whether they're going to rebuild this motor. So number 5, the aftermarket head gaskets really they didn't fit right. It's nice you could get a kit for it, but the holes didn't really line up very well. I had to open them up with a hole punch. But the rest of the gaskets seem to fit okay. So the pros. Number 1. The gasket kit and seal kit are still available. I mean, seals you could kind of get at any seal supply, but it's nice to be able to get the gasket kit. So number 2, I'm going to say, is it's very easy to time. And that's because the cam is located right on the crankshaft. And you're not having to fight with feeler gauges and stuff through the slots on the flywheel, or taking the flywheel on and off if that's the way you do it. It's nice having it right off of there, and everything's wide open and easy to work on, and like I said, setting your gap and stuff, super easy. Number 3, electric start, very nice feature. You kind of really need it if you're, like I said, because the recoil is so light. Number 4, seems to start really nice. Idle's nice. I haven't had it out for a ride yet, but I feel like it's going to be an engine that runs fairly well. Number 5, the Bosch ignition. That's nice to have. I really wasn't sure what was on there. You know, I guess it's got the Bosch coils that you can see from the outside, but who knows what was going to be behind that, behind the fan. But very nice. You can get Bosch parts just about anywhere. So. Now, I'm sure everybody's wondering about, or not, about the vents here. Now, I do have the one that was on here, but you can see they're pretty old and brittle. I do have another set that a fellow enthusiast was generous enough to give to me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. If I'm going to ride this thing, I might just take them off because I don't want them to break. But on the other hand, what's the point of having a thing if you're not going to ride it with everything on it? I've been considering having some printed. I don't know.